97%. That is the percentage of people in the affected group who, according to SSA's own Inspector General reporting, did not know these two rules existed until the day they filed for benefits and watched their check come in hundreds of dollars lower than they had calculated for 30 years. Not a website warning, not a letter, not a single mailer in 4 decades telling 3.2 million Americans this rule is going to cut your check and there is nothing you can do about it. I want you to sit with that number for a second. 97%. That is not an accident. That is not bureaucratic oversight. An agency that sends you a benefit estimate every single year, that tracks your earnings down to the dollar, that knows exactly which pension system you are enrolled in the moment you start working. That agency had every single piece of information needed to warn you decades in advance. And it didn't. For 43 years, 2 rules sat buried inside the Social Security Benefit Code, quietly cutting checks for 3.2 million people and completely wiping out the survivor benefits of 800,000 widows and widowers. Rules so obscure that even some financial advisors didn't fully understand how they were calculated. Rules that were never required to be disclosed to you in plain language at the point where it actually mattered, before you made 30 years of retirement decisions around a number that was never going to be real. Here's what nobody is telling you right now, in 2026. Those rules are gone. The law that eliminated them, the Social Security Fairness Act, passed in January 2025, and the federal government now owes $196 billion to the people it shortchanged. The average payout is $6,710. Some widows are owed more than $22,000. But here's the part that should genuinely concern you. The same agency that never warned you about the rule for 43 years is now in charge of automatically correcting it. And early reporting already shows that correction process is leaving people behind. Quietly, with no notification, exactly the same way the original rule was applied. I'm Lucien Vale. I dig into what Social Security doesn't put in plain language, and today I'm laying out exactly what was hidden, why it stayed hidden for 4 decades, and the specific steps that determine whether you actually get paid, or whether you become one of the people this correction quietly skips, the same way the original rule quietly applied. Subscribe before we go further. What I'm about to walk you through next is something the agency itself is not proactively telling anyone, and the deadline pressure is real. Let's start with the uncomfortable question. How does a federal agency keep a rule like this quiet for 43 years? The answer is almost insultingly simple. Nothing legally required them to make it obvious. The windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset were technically published in federal regulations, technically searchable, technically disclosed. But there is a massive difference between something existing in regulatory text and something being communicated to the actual person whose retirement depended on it. The windfall elimination provision, what it actually did. If you worked a job with a separate pension system, one that didn't withhold Social Security taxes, and you also worked other jobs across your life that did pay into Social Security, here's the part almost nobody explains correctly. The formula didn't just reduce your benefit a little. It rewrote the entire calculation method used for your check, treating you as if you were a high earner gaming a low-income protection, even if you spent your career as a public school teacher making $48,000 a year. The standard Social Security formula is built to replace a higher percentage of someone's first few $100s of average monthly earnings. It's designed to protect lower earners. WEP slashed that protective percentage specifically for people with non-covered pensions, cutting it sometimes in half. The result? An average reduction of $480 every month for the rest of your life, applied the day you filed and never revisited. 3.2 million people lived under that formula. Most of them found out only when their first check arrived smaller than every retirement calculator, every coworker's estimate, and every conversation they'd had for 30 years had told them to expect. The government pension offset, the one they really should have had to disclose. This is the one that should make you angry. If you were a spouse or widow entitled to benefits off your husband or wife's Social Security record, and you separately received your own government pension, GPO reduced your spousal or survivor benefit by 2/3 of your pension. Not a flat cut, 2/3. A $1,500 monthly pension wipes out $1,000 of spousal or survivor benefit. If the benefit itself was $900 or less, you got zero, nothing. The math wasn't even close. It was designed to frequently land at exactly zero for moderate pension amounts, which is precisely what happened to 800,000 widows and widowers. Here's the part that almost never gets said out loud. Many of those widows didn't just get a reduced check. They got their applications denied outright. SSA didn't process a small benefit and reduce it. In a huge number of cases, the system calculated that GPO would zero it out before any payment was ever approved and rejected the application at the door. Denied, not reduced. Which means there is no approved benefit sitting in the system for an automatic correction to find. We're coming back to that because it is the single most important fact in this entire video. 300 bills, zero passed, for 43 years. Over 4 decades, Congress saw 300 separate bills attempting to repeal these two rules. 300 attempts. Teachers' unions, firefighters' associations, police organizations, and federal employee groups lobbied every single session for 40 years straight. Everyone failed, until January 5th, 2025, when the Social Security Fairness Act finally passed and eliminated both rules completely, retroactive to January 2024. So the rules are gone. Good. Here's where it gets uncomfortable again. SSA has to manually and automatically correct over 4 million individual accounts. The Inspector General's own 2025 reporting flagged significant concerns about the pace and completeness of this correction process. Federal language for a large number of people are being missed, again, with no notification, again. Here is exactly how people are slipping through right now, in 2026. Silent Gap 1. The correction never started. Your account is sitting untouched in an unprocessed batch. You are still collecting the old reduced amount, and nobody has told you your case hasn't even been opened yet. Silent Gap 2. Half a correction. You got the lump sum back payment, but your ongoing monthly check is still calculated using the old WEP reduced formula. SSA fixed the past and forgot to fix the future. Silent Gap 3. One rule corrected, the other ignored. If you were affected by both WEP and GPO, which happens more than people realize, there are documented cases where only one provision was corrected on the account and the second sat untouched, because the two corrections run through different parts of SSA's system. Silent Gap 4, and this is the one that matters most. If your survivor benefit application was denied outright under the old GPO rule, not reduced, denied, there is no approved claim in SSA's database for the automated correction process to find. The system can only fix claims that exist. It cannot fix a claim that was never approved in the first place, which means thousands of widows and widowers are sitting in 2026 believing the new law simply doesn't apply to them, when in reality, they are owed back to January 2024. They just have to file a brand new application to get it. Nobody at SSA is calling these people to explain this. I want to say that again because it matters. The same exact silence that let WEP and GPO operate undisclosed for 43 years is the silence currently surrounding who got missed in the correction. 4 groups. Listen carefully. Teachers in non-covered pension states, Alaska, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Massachusetts, Missouri, Nevada, Ohio, Rhode Island, Texas, who also have Social Security earnings from other jobs. Firefighters, police officers, and state or local government workers in non-covered pension systems who also paid into Social Security through other employment. Federal employees hired before January 1st, 1984 under CSRS, not FERS, who also have Social Security covered work history. If you don't know which system you are under, call your former agency's HR office and ask them to confirm in writing. Spouses, widows, and widowers who receive a government pension and were entitled to or denied spousal or survivor benefits on a husband or wife's Social Security record. If you're in any of these groups, money may already be sitting in the system with your name on it, uncollected. Step 1. Check your own record before you trust the system to check it for you. Log into your My Social Security account at ssa.gov. Compare your current monthly benefit to what you were receiving before January 2025. Look for any WEP or GPO notation still attached to your record. If nothing has changed, your correction has not happened. Step 2. Call and use precise language. 1-800-772-1213. Say this exactly. I want to verify whether my account has been fully corrected under the Social Security Fairness Act for WEP and GPO, including both the retroactive payment and the ongoing monthly adjustment. If the case is pending, get a processing date and ask them to log your call. If they claim it's closed but the number still looks wrong, say, I would like to file a formal request for reconsideration of my benefit amount under the Social Security Fairness Act. That phrase escalates your case to a supervisor-level review, a different process than a standard callback. Step 3. Get it in writing. A verbal answer over the phone is not a record. Follow up with a written request through your online account or by mail, asking for written confirmation of your correction status, including specific dollar amounts. Step 4. The question almost nobody asks. If your survivor benefit was denied outright, not just reduced, ask this exact question. Does my case require a new survivor benefit application under the Social Security Fairness Act, and what is the deadline to file? This is the step that decides whether a denied widow collects $22,000 in back pay or watches it sit in a system that has no record to correct because she never filed the new claim the law now requires. 43 years of silence on the front end, possibly years more of silence on the back end, while corrections quietly miss millions of accounts the same way the original rule quietly applied to them. The only difference between someone who collects $6,710 or $22,000 and someone who never sees a dollar of it is whether they took these 4 steps or waited for a phone call and a letter that, based on 43 years of history, was never coming. Send this to someone who taught, served, or lost a spouse. They may be owed money no one is going to tell them about unless you do. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.